tough kid who lives for a good fight transfers to a new school just to take on the strongest guys around. But instead of going solo, he ends up joining a powerful group, and now he's right there with them, taking part in the school's biggest brawls against ruthless opponents who show no mercy. We see an all-out brawl erupting between the Boffurin and the Keel, and the intensity is so insane that Nairi practically soils himself in the middle of the wild slugfest involving wooden sticks and broken glass bottles. In a panic, the boy runs for his life, but ends up getting caught by members of the rival faction. Sakura spots his friend on the ground, completely helpless and about to die. Then one of the Keel members delivers the final blow. Just a few hours earlier, that same Nairi had pulled out his confidential notebook to share something. He only knows what Suo knows. The Keel is a small-scale group marked by a dragon skeleton symbol, but their ideology and internal structure remain a complete mystery. All Nairi ever hears are rumors about crimes the members have committed. Either way, Sakura doesn't care who these guys are. For them to do what they did to Nagato, yeah, they've got more than a few screws loose. Honestly, Sakura feels like throwing up just hearing about it. But it doesn't matter who they're up against, what matters is bringing Nagato back. End of story. And anyone who tries to get in the way of that rescue is getting beat down. The Boffurin crew agrees, and while Anzai appreciates the support, he warns them about how animalistic these guys can get. They'll gang up on a single opponent like a pack of wolves, beating them down with wooden clubs, no mercy. That's why he makes it clear, don't drop your guard for even a second. Soon after, the Boffurin arrive at a warehouse, and Anzai confirms that this is the place the Keel's base. As they reach the entrance, Sakura notices the door is locked and starts looking for another way in, but quickly loses his patience with the annoying beeping coming from Nairi's phone. That's when Tsujishita steps forward and gives the gate a strong pull, even though it's secured with chains. Nairi hesitates, saying that might not be enough, but Tsujishita follows up with such a clean, precise kick that he busts the gate open, chains and all. After complimenting the perks of having someone so violently capable on their side, the Boffurin members make their way inside only to be greeted by a few Keel goons. Shingo Natori jokes that they're being invaded by an entire gang, even though only one person made the reservation. With that, he turns to Nagato, who's bruised and battered on the ground, and lets him know his little friends have arrived. The moment Anzai sees his close friend being humiliated like that, his blood boils and Sakura has to physically hold him back before he does something reckless. Sakura demands they hand Nagato over. Obviously, the Keel refuses. They toss the hostage to the floor like trash and mock him, saying the kid couldn't even do his job properly. Sakura cuts through the nonsense, stating clearly that he doesn't care what they think. His attitude makes the Keel members laugh, but that's fine if that's how they want to play it. Then the Boffurin has no choice. They're going to beat everyone down and take the kid back by force. Natori pretends to be terrified and mocks them, asking if this is what local superheroes do now, bring an entire squad into enemy territory. Regardless, they need to defend themselves too. Right on cue, Keel goons pour in from every direction, armed with baseball bats and whatever else they could get their hands on. So much for being a small group. In fact, these guys look like they have 3 times the number of fighters the Boffurin brought. Realizing the situation is much worse than expected, Anzai apologizes to his crew. But Sujira and Kuryu don't think it's a big deal after all. It's only 3 or 4 guys per person. Just knock them out and make it home in time for dinner. Actually, Suo is surprised that Tsujishita is even more pumped than he thought, and Tsujishita himself adds that Mr. Umemiya would never forgive these scumbags. Then Sakura steps up and tells everyone to stand down, he can handle the enemies all by himself. If the others want to join in, they can play ball boys and collect the heads that roll off the field. The teammates get a kick out of the soccer metaphor, but there's no way they're letting their star striker charge the enemy lines alone. The Keel members start getting pissed off by the taunts, and their leader realizes the atmosphere is shifting. But that's not a bad thing, quite the opposite. Practically buzzing with excitement, Natori orders his crew to wipe out the intruders. And just like that, the real fight begins. The two sides clash head-on. The Keel fight dirty, swinging wooden planks and iron bars at people's heads, while the Boffurin throw hands the old-fashioned way. Takanashi catches an opponent's stick mid-swing and hands the guy over to Kurita, who wastes no time and slams a punch into the man's face. Moments later, Kurita's almost blindsided by another Keel member. but Yuri Kakeuchi jumps in just in time to save him. Sujira also backs up his teammates, while Kuryu unleashes blow after blow on every punk that dares come near. Suo stays calm and focused in the middle of the chaos, though he does notice that Nairi doesn't look quite as composed. Meanwhile, Sakura handles his opponents effortlessly like always. Honestly, the team knew Tsujishita was strong, but none of them expected Sakura to be even stronger. Even Natori has to admit it. 5 of the Boffurin are way above average Tsujishita: Suo, Kuryu, Tsujira, and Sakura. Speaking of Sakura, he calls Anzai over for a tag team move. The two of them dash through the brawl and head upstairs to the highest floor of the warehouse, where Nagato is being held. When they reach the top of the stairs, Anzai winds up a punch for Natori, but the Keel leader blocks it with ease and mocks him, saying he and his little friends are getting way too bold. Then he launches a brutal kick straight into Anzai's chin, sending blood spraying from every hole in his face as he crashes down the staircase in agony. Sakura sees his friend like that and rushes over to help, but one of Keel's elite members jumps in to block him. Sakura demands to know who he is. Down below, Takanashi shouts words of encouragement to pump up the team, and Yuri joins in to rally the squad. At the same time, another Keel elite steps into the fray ready to take on each one of the 5 Boffurin aces that Natori called out earlier. Seeing this, the Keel leader grins. And with that, he announces the start of round 2. Sakura's had it with the smug faces on these lunatics. But when that crazy guy comes swinging at him with an iron bar, he's forced to dodge instead of going on the offensive right away. Acting like a complete maniac, Takaru Kongo shouts that the enemy can't win if he just keeps running. Meanwhile, Sujira blocks an incoming strike and tells his rival, Chiyu Kirishima, that it doesn't matter if it's a punch or a smack with a steel rod at the end of the day, a hit is still a hit. Yet, the villain always ends up losing. Tsujishita's opponent, Teishi Megami, who's wielding a bat wrapped in barbed wire, admits that for such a big guy, Tsujishita actually moves pretty well. After missing every attack against Kuryu, Renji Kaga calls him a little girl, dancing around all carefree just to dodge. Kuryu, calm as ever, replies that he can't stand that outdated mindset, as if only women can be that flexible. On another front, Hansup Tone gets blocked repeatedly, even while swinging with both his batons. He sneers that Suo must really think he's something, fighting while protecting the big-headed kid behind him. Feeling guilty, Nairi apologizes, but Suo tells him that fighting like this actually draws out even more power. At the same time, the members of Boffurin are finding themselves surrounded on all sides by waves of enemies. Takanashi ends up paying the price when he takes a brutal hit to the head while trying to protect Kurita. Sakura sees it all go down and rushes in to help, but Kongo isn't about to let him wander off and play hero alone. He holds him back. Losing all patience, Sakura winds up a heavy punch, ready to finish this fight once and for all, but right before he can land it, he takes a clean hit from a Keel member who just happened to pass through the battlefield. Laughing hysterically at the twist, Natori says he saw this coming. He knew these Boffurin guys would take control if the top 5 fighters were allowed to move freely. But now that he's made his move, the game's changed. They're surrounded and one by one, they'll all fall. Oh, and he also figured Anzai wouldn't show up to this fight alone. What's odd is that the guy only brought a bunch of first years. Imitating a little chick, the leader of the Keel mocks his enemies as if they were helpless birds heading straight into the slaughterhouse. Back inside the chaos, Nairi is in a full panic, watching Furin crumble under the sheer pressure from their opponents. It's getting uglier by the second. Even Suo can't move because he's stuck protecting him. That's when Nairi starts to question why he's even there. Sure, he came with the others just like during the fight with Shishitorin, but that time, he didn't have to lift a finger. He figured today would be just the same. Trying to be honest with himself, the kid starts to think he's pathetic. But in the middle of that downward spiral, he suddenly remembers something Sakura once told him the exact opposite. That memory jolts him into action. Nairi breaks into a sprint right through the battlefield, and Suo, locked in combat with Tone, can't chase after him. As he runs, Nairi tells himself he's part of Furin too. He may not be able to fight or protect himself, but the least he can do is not run away. Without hesitation, he hurls himself at a Keel member, knocking the guy to the ground with his full weight. Instantly, the Keel starts pounding Nairi in the head. Another enemy delivers a vicious kick to his face, wrecking him completely. With that, Nairi shuts down, completely blanking out in the middle of the battlefield. When he finally comes to, he realizes things aren't going to be nearly as easy as they were back with Shishitoran. The Keel fighter winds up for a final blow to Nairi's head, but before it lands, he gets launched through the air, like he just got hit by a cannonball. As the dust settles, Ren Kaji stands their reinforcements at his side, ready to turn the tide. One of them, Inamoto, looks around and comments that their buddies really took a beating from these guys. Kuzumi gently places a hand on Nairi's shoulder to show support. Immediately, the more alert Keel fighters realize the one wearing the headphones is none other than Kaji, and they know if they piss him off, he won't stop until he's crushed every last one of them. Even so, Shingo Natori doesn't seem fazed by the reinforcements, even if he knows these guys are second years. What he doesn't get is why there's suddenly a whole bunch of Furin in his base. Weren't they the ones supposed to be protecting the city? This is just a little scuffle between the Keel and Nagato's buddy. Bafurin has nothing to do with it. Kaji, already done with the nonsense, asks if this guy is seriously that dumb because they've got everything to do with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be there. You could feel the rage in his words, and it sent chills down the spines of any Keel member who valued their life. Kaji reminds them that Bafurin protects the city, everything in it. That means the people, the places, the feelings that live there, and someone from Furin is part of that. Still mocking him, Natori says he doesn't follow. So Kaji calls him dumb again. Keel laid hands on a Furin, so now they're about to find out exactly who they messed with. He ends with a roar that sends the enemies scrambling except for Natori, who honestly just finds it all annoying. He wasn't trying to start a war, just give them a heads up that things were about to get ugly. But if they don't want to listen, so be it. He turns to his men and asks why they're backing off. There's only 3 more of them left. If they don't want to end up like Nagato, they'd better stop dragging their feet. The Keel gang charges at the new arrivals, and Kaji immediately drops 3 guys with a single kick. Inamoto mirrors the move, but with a punch. Kaji tells his 2 friends to handle the lower floors. He's going up top to grab the princess in the tower. Outside the base, Kuzumi lays Nairi down and returns to the fight. Alone again, Nairi can't help but still feel like a complete failure. Back in the countryside, Inamoto gathers the 5 strongest allies and tells them to focus on their main opponents. The rest, he'll handle himself. Meanwhile, Kaji pushes through the enemies until he gets close to the staircase that leads up to Keel's leader, who watches all this with a smirk, amused by Bafurin's efforts, as if it were some pointless struggle. Just before heading up, Kaji glances over at Anzai, who's lying unconscious nearby. To add insult to injury, Natori casually mentions he kicked that guy earlier, but Furin doesn't take the bait. Watching it unfold, Sakura dodges a metal rod swing from his opponent and shouts out that the guy upstairs is his and only his. Honestly, that offends Kongo a bit, since he's actually been holding his own as a pretty worthy opponent. Right then, Kaji steps in and asks his partner if he even realizes the mess they've gotten themselves into. But noticing some lunatic getting on his nerves, he drives Kongo back with a kick so fierce it doesn't even land, yet it still makes the guy jump back in fear. Now that they've got some space to talk, Kaji punches Sakura in the back of the neck and calls him out, saying he can't even beat the weakling in front of him because he's too obsessed with the Keel leader. He reminds him that a class captain should care more about standing by his team than settling some personal grudge in the middle of an all-out brawl. Hearing that, Sakura thinks of Yumamiya and says he still can't forgive him, even if what Kaji's saying is true. Kaji admits he can't either. But even so, he's going to beat the crap out of Natori for their friend. Sakura asks him to land 10 solid hits right in his face. With a nod, Kaji climbs the stairs, heading straight toward the main target. Kongo breathes a sigh of relief. At least he doesn't have to fight that savage lollipop freak. Then Sakura punches himself in the face and declares that the only cure for a lunatic is an even crazier one. At least he questions what the hell he's doing, which might be a sign of sanity, but in truth, he's just blaming himself for being such a joke. It's not even funny. Whatever kind of meltdown this is, Bafurin's done wasting time with Keel. Check out these videos appearing on your screen and subscribe so you don't miss the next part.